Your dog has been sitting by the front door for 6 hours. You walked in, he went absolutely insane. Tail spinning, jumping, practically crying. Classic dog excitement, right? But here's what's strange. He does the exact same thing whether you were gone for 6 hours or 6 minutes. No difference at all. Which raises a question nobody really thinks about. Does your dog actually know how long you have been gone? Does he feel time passing the way you do? Or is he living in some completely different version of reality, where time doesn't tick the same way it does for you? Because here's what scientists have started to figure out, and I promise this is going to change how you look at every animal you have ever seen. Time is not experienced the same way by every creature on this planet, not even crows. In this video, we are going to go deep on one of the most quietly mind-bending questions in all of biology. Do animals experience time differently than we do? And not in vague, philosophical way, I mean scientifically, measurably, verifiably, and differently. We are going to look at what's actually happening inside animal brains, why some creatures effectively live life in slow motion while others blink through entire days in seconds, and what that tells us about the nature of time itself. By the end of this, the way you look at a fly, a common housefly, is never going to be same again. Let's get into it. Let's start with something called critical flicker fusion rate. Your brain processes visual information at a certain speed. There's a threshold, a frame rate, basically below which your brain stitches separate flashes of light into one smooth, continuous image. That's why movies work. That's why your screen doesn't look like a strobe light. For humans, that threshold is around 60 flashes per second. Now, what do you think it is for a housefly? 250 flashes per second before a fly perceives something as a continuous motion. What that means, and really sit with this, is that when a fly sees you reaching out to swat it, it is not seeing a fast hand. It is watching you move in what is, from its perspective, absolutely slow motion. You are barely moving. It has all the time in the world to escape. The fly isn't fast. You are slow to the fly. That one fact requires everything, because it means the fly isn't living in your version of time at all. It is living in a different time stream entirely. A second for you is a long time for a fly. And this isn't just about flies. Scientists have found this pattern everywhere, and the smaller the animal, the faster their internal clocks tends to run. Mice, birds, small lizards, they all process the world at a rate that makes human perception look sluggish. And here's where it gets genuinely strange. If animals with the faster internal clocks experience more time per second of real time, then their lives, in terms of subjective experience, might actually be far longer than their lifespan suggests. A housefly lives for 1 day. We feel sorry for it. But if its internal clock runs fast enough, that 1 day might feel to a housefly like what a year feels like to us. Which immediately raises the question, and this is the one I really want you to hold on to. If some animals experience more time per second and others experience less, what does that mean for a larger animals? What does the time feels like to a whale, to an elephant, to a tortoise that is going to outlive everyone reading this right now? We will get there, but first we need to talk about memory. Because experiencing time and measuring time are two completely different things. And what animals can and can't remember changes everything about how they relate to time. Here's the payoff to that question about your dog. Your dog almost certainly does not have a strong episodic memory, the kind that lets you replay experiences like a mental film. What your dog experiences is a closer to a continuous present. The past doesn't have a texture the way it does for you. Events don't stack up into a narrative. So when you come home after 6 hours, your dog isn't thinking that felt like forever. He's just like, suddenly you are here. And that is wonderful. The gap between doesn't register as a gap. It is simply nothing. And then you. That's not sad. That might actually be something closer to a superpower. Now flip to the other end of spectrum. Crows. Crows have episodic like memory. Researchers have shown that crows can remember not just what happened, but where and when, which is a form of time perception that very few animals outside of humans clearly demonstrate. In one famous study, crows hide food and then had to retrieve it later. They didn't just remember where they hid it, they adjusted their behavior based on how much time had passed. If too much time went by, they knew the perishable food would have rotted, and they went for the non-perishable cache instead. Crows are making decisions about the future based on an internal model of time passing. That's not instinct, that's planning. That's a relationship with the time that starts to feel uncomfortably close to ours. And then there are elephants. Elephants mourn their dead. They return to the bones of family members they lost, sometimes years later. They stand over them, they touch them. There is something happening in an elephant's mind around loss and absence that we genuinely don't have language for yet. Which brings us to the most disorienting idea in all of this: time. The experience of time might not be the one thing. We talk about it like it's a fixed river that everything swims through at the same speed. But what this science is actually showing us is that every species might be swimming through a completely different river, different speed, different depth, maybe even different direction. Your dog lives in an eternal present. The housefly lives in a slow motion reality. The crow plans for a future it can model in its head. The elephant carries the past that never fully goes away. And you're somewhere in the middle of all of that, building memories, projecting futures, worrying about the time the way no other animal seems to. And here's the question I want to leave you with. If a creature with a faster internal clock experiences more life per second than you do, and a creature with no episodic memory lives in present that never fades, which one of them is experiencing time better? Because the answer isn't obvious, and it might say more about what you value in your own life than it says about the animals. That's the thing about asking how animals experience time.